Tonight, Narendra Modi set to secure a third term as Indian Prime Minister, but without the expected landslide. The ADF looking beyond Australia's borders in a bid to secure new defence recruits. Accused murderer Greg Lynn tells police why he covered up the deaths of 2 campers. And next stop, Paris. The Matildas lock in their Olympic squad. Hello and welcome to ABC Late News. I'm Jade Barker. We begin with the Indian election, where, with counting underway, the expected Narendra Modi landslide does not appear to be materialising. After its marathon election, the official results are telling a different story from the one exit polls predicted, with Modi's BJP on track to secure the most seats, but to fall short of a majority to govern in its own right. The party's coalition bloc looks set to lose ground in previous strongholds, including the most populous state of Uttar Pradesh, where the opposition bloc is currently expected to pick up more than half of the state's 80 seats. The Indian stock market has fallen sharply after jumping more than 3% on Monday when exit polls predicted a BJP majority. To news at home now, and the federal government is looking overseas in a bid to boost the nation's defence force ranks. From next month, Defence will start looking for permanent residents from across the Tasman as it tries to address challenges in attracting and retaining personnel.
To address a 4,000-person shortfall in defence, the government is looking to foreign nationals, permanent residents willing to serve in exchange for a fast track to citizenship, in a recruitment policy march into uncharted territory.
It's a significant crossing of the Rubicon today.
But the government was forced to double back after confusion over exactly who will make up the 350 extra people forecast to join per year as a result.
It'll apply to other Five Eyes countries and permanent residents from any other countries.
The prospect of recruits from any other country forced a clean-up in question time.
In the future, we are having an eye to the Pacific.
It's a dog's breakfast.
The policy's now been clarified. From July, New Zealanders who are permanent residents in Australia and have lived here for more than a year will be able to apply to join the Defence Force. From January, that eligibility will be broadened to include permanent residents from Canada, the United States and United Kingdom, assuming all security checks are met. The opposition labelling the move half-baked.
If you value and respect, truly value and respect the effort of the Australian men and women who wear our uniform, you don't start to cheapen the entry price to get into the Australian Defence Force.
You are going to have to come up and offer them better pay and better conditions.
The mother of a Navy officer who took his own life says deeper cultural change is needed.
People from overseas that, from other countries that might want to enlist here just need to look at our track record.
There's a reason why new recruitment ideas are being embraced. Defence isn't only lagging on the people it needs now, it's also well behind its goal of a permanent 80,000 strong force by 2040. Nicole Hegarty, ABC News, Canberra.
An Australian critical minerals company, which had Chinese investors removed from its business on Monday, says its operations have not been hampered by a recent cyber breach that's just been disclosed. Here's Defence correspondent Andrew Green.
We're referring to the Northern Minerals Company. It's a West Australian-based firm that operates in the Kimberley region, and crucially, it operates a project there that is gathering rare earths, and specifically a rare earth that is used in the manufacture of electric vehicles, or it is looking to do so in a big way. And just yesterday, the Treasurer ordered that 4 international companies with links to China be removed from this company, this project. So today we learned that, coincidentally perhaps, there is now a post on the dark web suggesting there has been a significant data breach involving Northern Minerals, and that has only appeared in the past few hours. So difficult to locate, but has been put on a data leak site. So that's already a fairly significant indication that we're dealing with a sophisticated cyber criminal who has managed to break into the Northern Minerals company. The post itself says that the hacker has managed to steal data on employees, strategic decisions, investors, that sort of thing, and also significantly email archives belonging to 2 employees who are named in this post. We've also approached the government for comment. The Home Affairs Minister's office says the government is aware of this breach and is working with the company.
Greg Lynn says he covered up the deaths of 2 campers in Victoria's high country because he didn't want to lose his career and family. The former pilot admitted he'd made some terrible decisions, but said he was not guilty of murder.
This is Greg Lynn repainting his 4-wheel drive and removing part of the vehicle as he tries to cover up the deaths of Carol Clay and Russell Hill. Detective Brett Florence was one of the officers who arrested Mr Lynn and interviewed him at the Sale police station. The alleged double killer protested his innocence using a hand-drawn map to describe a deadly fight at this campsite in Victoria's high country. "I'm innocent of murder. I haven't behaved well. I've made some poor decisions, but murder, as I understand it, I am innocent of," Mr Lynn said. In meticulous detail, the former Jetstar pilot claimed both deaths were accidental, one involving a gunshot to the head and the other a knife to the chest. Mr Lynn said he didn't come forward to police, fearing it would end his aviation career and jeopardise his membership of a sporting club. "I tried to save myself," Mr Lynn said. "It was at a time when I was just finding a really happy place in the world with family, career and my personal life outside of work. This for me was a disaster and I thought, what else can I possibly do?" Greg Lynn said he kept the deaths a secret from his wife Melanie. He said she didn't ask about his camping trip and later on took little notice when he repainted his vehicle in an attempt to throw police off the scent. But Mr Lynn said he knew police were onto him when detectives visited his home and he was snapped by this camera leaving the alleged murder scene. Later that year, he went back to where he dumped the bodies and set fire to what was left. "My intention was to get rid of evidence. It was a horrific thing to have to deal with. I was sick when I was there several times. I steeled myself for it and I worked through the night." Mr Lynn was charged with 2 counts of murder after that police interview. He's pleaded not guilty, with his trial now into its 4th week. Christian Silva, ABC News, Melbourne.
Immigration Minister Andrew Giles has revealed he's considering cancelling the visa of a Melbourne gangland figure who the Administrative Appeals Tribunal has allowed to stay in the country. On Monday, the tribunal cited a direction from the Immigration Minister in 2023 demanding it consider a foreign national's strength and length of ties to the community. The AAT reinstated the visa of an associate of the Mockbell crime family, a 51-year-old convicted criminal, Kevin Farrugia. The direction is soon to be replaced after revelations it has led to a number of convicted criminals being allowed to stay in Australia.
I have, over the last week, cancelled 35 visas and there are more under review. I am aware of the case that the Shadow Minister refers to, which was decided by the AAT yesterday, and it is under consideration in accordance with the national interest.
The US says Israel stands ready to push ahead with a plan that could lead to a total ceasefire in Gaza. That's despite far-right Israeli ministers threatening to topple the government if a truce is sealed. Pressure for a breakthrough is growing as details emerge of 4 hostages possibly killed by Israeli forces.
No sign of peace. Just one of more than 50 targets Israel says it struck in the past 24 hours. With Gazan cities and tent camps demolished, desperate Palestinians are pleading for a ceasefire.
Hamas, accept the deal. It's enough.
But far-right members of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition have threatened to bring down the Israeli government should the deal outlined by US President Joe Biden go ahead.
בטיוטה של עסקה מופקרת.
This is a draft of a reckless deal, and now there is some sort of an attempt to whitewash it.
The Prime Minister is insisting the ceasefire conditions have not changed, but he has doubled down on crushing Hamas.
We have gone a long way to return the hostages, while keeping the war's objectives in mind, primarily the elimination of Hamas.
It appears the Israeli Prime Minister's private commitments to the US are now being forced into the public eye by the White House, which wants an end to this war. It's left Benjamin Netanyahu having to placate his right-wing ministers, now suggesting a temporary truce could start while negotiations continue for a permanent ceasefire, leaving open the possibility the war could also continue.
Despite the conflicting statements from Israel, Joe Biden has told Qatari mediators that Israel stands ready to move forward with the deal.
The only thing standing in the way of an immediate ceasefire today is Hamas.
The Israeli army has revealed 4 more of the hostages kidnapped by Hamas are now confirmed dead. The army believes the 4 were killed while Israel was operating in Khan Yunis, possibly by IDF fire.
If we're not going to negotiate and we'll make a hostage deal, there's no hope for this country.
Every day without a breakthrough, only adding to suffering and heartache. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
A new report says Australia spends more on law enforcement to tackle illicit drugs than it does on treatment, prevention and harm reduction combined. Professor Alison Ritter is the lead author of the report.
So of the $5.45 billion, 64% is spent on policing and law enforcement, and a very small 7% is spent on prevention, and then an absolutely tiny 1.6% is spent on harm reduction. It's surprisingly consistent. We've done this exercise about 20 years ago, and we did it again about 10 years ago in 2009. The amount that's being spent has increased enormously, but that's actually to do with increases in government spending overall. But the distribution between these 4 different domains of drug policy has remained incredibly consistent. We know that the Australian community want a balanced approach to drugs. They want prevention, they want treatment, and they want law enforcement. But they would prefer that the distribution between these things is more equal than it is currently.
Mining giant Rio Tinto will spend more than $200 million to test a product it claims would almost completely remove carbon dioxide emissions from the manufacture of steel from its iron ore. But the challenge will be producing it on an industrial scale and keeping it affordable.
Big claims for a research centre due to be built where a shed now stands in Rockingham.
A facility that could be critical to the world's transition to net zero.
It will seek to replicate on a larger scale the laboratory production of a form of low-carbon steel making Rio is calling bio-iron. Instead of using coal to heat the iron ore, raw biomass such as straw heated by microwave energy is used.
It has the potential to reduce carbon emissions from the steel-making process by 95% compared to currently used methods.
Steel manufacturing produces 8 to 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions, so the impact could be huge.
The science is well known, and there's no impedance to how you do it in a small scale.
The challenge is to do it on an industrial scale, with hundreds of millions of tonnes of iron ore.
This is typical hematite from Pilbara.
And sourcing massive amounts of biomass and microwave energy.
To shine microwave to a large body of biomass and iron ore mixture and heat it up to achieve iron ore reduction to make a raw iron.
The costs are also expected to be high.
As the technology matures and there is a greater rate of deployment across the world, we will see prices of green steel drop significantly.
Raw biomass is just one of the methods being investigated to reduce carbon dioxide emissions in the manufacture of steel. Researchers here at a laboratory at the University of Western Australia are also looking into using hydrogen and ammonia.
We need all sorts of technical, scientific breakthroughs to be able to achieve that.
Enormous promise and enormous challenges. Nick Perpich, ABC News.
Police are urging anyone who could smell gas near a home in Sydney's west that exploded to come forward. The investigation continues into the cause of the blast on Saturday, which claimed the life of 30-year-old May Jasmine. Police also want anyone with video of the explosion to contact them. The state government says it's still receiving information about contractors about the maintenance of gas at the social housing complex. People are continuing to lay floral tributes near the scene. And ABC News has been contacted by residents of several other housing complexes who say they've reported suspected gas leaks that have never been investigated. Tenants say there's a litany of other potentially dangerous maintenance issues that are going unchecked.
Andrew Grant is no stranger to the issues raised by the Whalen home explosion.
It was very familiar. It struck a chord with me straight away.
There's an obvious smell of gas coming from townhouses that are part of his social housing complex in Redfern, and he says he's been noticing it for 8 months.
As far as I know, no one's actually come out and had a look at it. I have taken 2 representatives of Land and Housing Corporation to that property as part of a walk around, but they weren't particularly concerned about it.
But that's not the only potentially dangerous problem going unaddressed at this complex. The lift call button, which Andrew relies on to get to his top floor apartment, is held together with electric tape and breaks regularly.
I get stuck on the ground floor and I can't get back into my unit, or I get stuck in my unit and I can't get out of the building.
Andrew has muscular dystrophy and has been asking for more than 2 years to get it fixed. There's also been no hot water in the building for 8 days.
There are 15 units in my building, 3 people in wheelchairs, a lot of people, some people in their 90s, and it's winter.
The roof is finally being fixed after years of complaints.
My roof leaked for 8 years.
If you are following up on a maintenance request reported previously.
The government agency responsible, Homes New South Wales, says there have been nearly 25,000 urgent maintenance requests this financial year and acknowledges response times have deteriorated.
Maintenance calls are not being responded to quickly enough, call-outs are not happening quickly enough, work isn't being done quickly enough.
The minister blames the outsourcing of social housing maintenance and says it should improve from July when the government brings it back in-house.
Mentally, it wears you down, and all you've got to do to break someone is take away their hope.
After the ABC contacted Homes New South Wales about the hot water issue in Andrew's building, it's now promising it will be resolved tomorrow. Sarah Gerrithy, ABC News, Sydney.
ACT residents are being urged to adopt pandemic-like practices amid a sharp rise in COVID-19, influenza and other respiratory-related illnesses. But health authorities say there's no cause for alarm.
Just 4 days into winter and some Canberrans are already doing their bit to keep from getting sick.
I'm just isolating and wearing a mask to try and keep safe.
We're not so much doing the embracing and the kissing and the handshaking. I've noticed that.
I'm staying inside more during the winter, so you're not going out with more people, you know.
With good reason. ACT health data paints a worrying picture. The first week of April saw just 13 patients with COVID-19 in Canberra's hospitals. Last week, that number had increased 5-fold. For the broader population, the spike has been even sharper, from 42 PCR confirmed cases to 242 in 10 weeks.
The reality is, although the intense period of the pandemic is gone, COVID is here to stay. So instead of taking over, it's going to join in all the fun with the other winter viruses every year.
The latest strain is more infectious than previous strains, but not more severe. The rapid rise in cases prompted North Canberra Hospital to up its risk level from green to amber late last week. Today, TCH followed suit. That means masks are now mandatory, all unexpected admissions are PCR tested, and visitor numbers have been reduced.
We know what can happen if we don't take precautions, that systems can get overwhelmed, so we're getting in early.
Dr. Kerry Ost says this year brought an early start to the cold and flu season.
So we started seeing early cases of influenza, a lot of RSV and a surprising increase in atypical pneumonias like Mycoplasma pneumoniae over the last month.
Her advice to Canberrans will feel eerily familiar. Practice good hygiene, stay home if unwell, wear a mask in confined public spaces and keep vaccinations up to date.
I think we approach with caution, so protect ourselves, protect the vulnerable people around us.
Simple instructions Canberrans are well versed at following. Rosie King, ABC News, Canberra.
Some remote Northern Territory communities have been barred from legally accessing takeaway alcohol for up to half a century. But that could soon change, with the NT government revealing its roadmap for the rollout of alcohol management plans across the territory. It's a move some Indigenous leaders fear will only lead to further addiction.
It's been 15 months since alcohol-fuelled crime reached crisis levels in Central Australia. The NT government, under pressure from the Commonwealth, reinstated liquor bans in all communities and town camps, 6 months after intervention-era laws were allowed to lapse.
These are complex problems and they require a full solution.
And now, more than a year on, the government has revealed its roadmap for rolling out alcohol management plans across the territory, giving communities which have been dry for up to 50 years the chance to legally access takeaway alcohol.
We've got to get away from this paternalistic view of alcohol and saying to communities you just cannot have it.
The NT government has put out a tender for private consultants to help communities develop their management plans. More than 100 remote communities and homelands have registered interest, with about 30 moving to the development stage.
We need people to learn to live with alcohol.
Beswick is one of the NT's 8 remote communities already operating a social club. Leaders say it's helped residents learn to drink responsibly and stopped them from taking risky trips to major centres to buy alcohol.
It was mainly the deaths. People just started coming back in a casket.
But other Indigenous leaders fear communities aren't ready for the rivers of grog to return.
Putting remote alcohol places on remote communities is adding more fuel to the fire. It's an addiction and it's a feel-good because the person's been kicked in the guts all his life and the only way out of it is alcohol.
Mixed feelings on a hot topic in the Territory's debates. Charmaine Allison, ABC News, Alice Springs.
Alex de Minaur has upset the world number 5 Daniil Medvedev to become the first Australian male since Leighton Hewitt in 2004 to reach the quarterfinals at the French Open. De Minaur says a vocal young fan has become his lucky charm and will be courtside again when he takes on German Alexander Zverev.
It's the feel-good story of Roland Garros. An enthusiastic supporter of Alex de Minaur in his previous match, French fan Paul was back, riding every point like his life depended on it. To show his gratitude.
He's managed a miracle. I might have to get him on tour week in and week out. I could hear him after every single point, and it's a distinctive voice.
Honestly, it was amazing, and now I really hope you'll win. It was incredible.
On the clay, I needed hot, lively conditions, but this week, this whole tournament has proven otherwise.
De Minaur endeared himself to the Parisians by conducting his entire post-match interview in French. The Demon is likely to be a crowd favourite when he faces 4th seed Alexander Zverev. The German is coming off 2 gruelling 5-set wins.
I've played a total of 8.5 hours over the last 3 days, so I need to recover.
Calm by his side, a maiden Grand Slam semi-final is in his sights. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
The Matildas have named an 18-strong team for the Paris Olympics, including 8 players heading to their 3rd straight games. But the team will be without all-time leading goal scorer Sam Kerr, officially ruled out due to injury.
A record crowd of almost 77,000 people turned up to the Olympic Stadium to farewell Australia's favourite team and a treasured veteran.
Just listen to this ovation.
Lydia Williams was playing her 105th and likely last game for the Matildas. Tennis legend Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley presented the Noongar keeper with a buka, a cloak made from kangaroo skins.
Thank you, everyone.
Australia and China played out a 0-0 first half before captain Steph Catley delivered a pinpoint free kick.
It's a great ball, it's a great header. And it's Claire Wheeler.
1-0 became 2-0 when Hayley Roussos finished a beautifully weighted through ball from Courtney Vine.
Who accelerates and scores. And the Matildas are heading to Paris in style.
And this morning it became official for Tony Gustafsson's squad of 18.
It's been an emotional week, of course, but right now, today, I feel very excited.
The Olympics is a really, really difficult tournament. It's quick turnarounds, straight off the bat in the groups you're playing against, some of the top teams in the world.
Steph Catley will captain an experienced squad. She's one of 8 Matildas going to their 3rd Olympic Games. 6 will be going to their 2nd, while last night's goal scorer, Claire Wheeler, is one of 4 players who'll be making their Olympic debut. This is a team Australia will be hoping can break the Matildas' duck at major tournaments. After finishing 4th at the World Cup and the last Olympic Games, they now have a great opportunity to finish on the podium.
We know we're not the top-ranked teams. We're ranked 9 out of 12 teams in this tournament. If you look at world ranking, we have a lot of injury issues, as you know, and as of late.
The obvious admission is Sam Kerr. And while Katrina Gorry has been selected, she hasn't played since March due to a syndesmosis injury. It's all smiles now, then hard work before the first game against Germany in Marseille. David Mark, ABC News, Sydney.
Let's get a check of the weather forecast now. Here's Eleni Roussos.
This band of cloud is generating patchy rain in the centre and South Australia. In the days ahead, we'll see the focus shift to the New South Wales south coast, where a trough is set to deepen. Rain will kick off between the Illawarra and down the south coast from tomorrow night, and we could see accumulated rainfall totals in the triple digits by the end of the week. The forecast for the capital cities tomorrow: cloudy in Brisbane, reaching 22, showers in Sydney, reaching 20, Canberra will see showers as well, 14, cloudy and 15 for Melbourne and Hobart. A dry day in Adelaide, reaching 18 tomorrow, sunny in Perth, 23 your top, and a dry 32 for Darwin.
And that's ABC Late News. I'm Jade Barker. Thanks for your company.